Hey, how are you doing, guys? Hope you are doing well today. My webcam is a bit tilted. Fix that. Sorry for the mess behind. I'm just building an armature for a bed right now. It's a bit messy. Hope you are doing well. I'm super excited about today's presentation. This is a subject that I absolutely love. You have no idea. I've been writing for the last 2 hours about that subject. I'm at 15,000 characters just for today's part. And I've just talked about a third, maybe half of what I want to talk about. So this will be probably a 2, if not a 3-part presentation. Today we are talking about character archetypes. Yesterday I was talking about getting influenced by classical literature, the raw material, archetypes, mythology, myths, legends, archetypal stories like the monomyth and stuff like that. There will be a presentation about the monomyth, by the way. This is like storytelling week this week. But today we are talking about classical character creation. This might be for writing, but we will also see how those writing tropes can be used in design, like visual design. We will have some examples of character and we will see the common point that they have between each of them. You know, to figure out how to express those kind of archetypes in your character design and tell their story through their appearance. Okay. A very quick disclaimer before. Those archetypes, if I follow the classic literature, are supposed to be masculine archetypes. In today's tropes, they are more universal. At some point, I will mention other names for the quote-unquote feminine version, but I don't want to have Twitter or to spark a polemic in the chat, so let's assume it's universal, okay? My name... Hello, Novel. So I just don't want to spark a polemic, just full disclosure. These are classical archetypes. This is not my ideas. This is other people's ideas. This is based upon 4,000 years of literature. Hello, Novel. How are you doing? If you're doing well. Thank you for the brushes, by the way. They are fantastic.
Hello.
Oh, no. Yeah. Kitty is destroying the plastic bag. So yeah, this is based upon the research of 4,000 years of literature and classic mythology, plus Carl Jung's work, plus Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette, which are contemporary to Carl Jung. Carl Jung already made some archetypes, and they decided to make some models for these archetypes. He just could not give you the brush though. Not these ones. It's not the same that we have in first year. These ones are a bit different. Especially the tools. All the tools, they are pretty different. Anyways. So, let's check very quickly the archetypes. I'm gonna open that in Photoshop. Okay, can you see that probably? So we have those different archetypes, and I want to expand a bit on that. Basically, Robert Moore, the guy writing the book I'm based on, which is King Warrior Magician Lover. This is a book that he wrote a while ago. This is used in a lot of modern literature, and you can use that in character design. We'll see how. But basically, he basically argues that each archetypes So the king archetype, the warrior archetype, aka the parent archetype, the magician archetype, and the lover archetype, they consist of 3 parts. The full and highest expression of the archetype at the top. At the bottom, the 2 bipolar dysfunctional shadows of the archetypes. To better understand that, Mo portrays each archetype as a triangle, as we see right now. And basically, this part, let me get a brush. Oop. Grab a regular brush. This part is the mature one, aka the adult one, and this one is the child one. Today we're gonna talk about the child one. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about the adult one. And this will be fantastic. So, before the king, there's something called the divine child. I know this sounds a bit religious. We'll see, for example, that it can be applied to many things, including some religious archetypes, also myths, legend, recent stories, fantasy. You will see plenty of examples, and I will ask you to give me other examples that I might have forgotten. Before the warrior, there is the hero. Before the magician, there is the precocious child. And before the lover, there is the Oedipal child. This is not Oedipus complex. This is a bit different, so bear with me. I'm gonna explain that. But let's start if you want. So today we are doing the bottom part, which is the child or the immature archetypes. And basically, if you mature enough, basically if you start from nothing, and if you are mature, you are the divine child. And then if you mature even more, go to adulthood, this is the king. This is not a personal development stream, by the way. This is just about fantasy tropes and writing tropes and how we can apply that to the visuals that we are producing. So, you will see that a lot of these archetypes are used in fantasy tropes, games, RPGs, MMOs, D&D, even some archetypes in shooting games like like Overwatch, some MOBAs and such. For example, you see King, it could be the hero archetype in some MMOs. Warrior could be the warrior one. Magician will be basically the wizard. Lover will be the bard, something like that. And you will see that you basically have all the D&D tropes right there. Let's start. So, the first one is called the divine child. Give me a sec, my kitty is meowing. What do you want, buddy? What do you want? I have no idea. So let's start with the divine child. Oh, another thing. One character is supposed to be all of them. It's like a spectrum. You see when you have some stats, you have like a square, and you have some diamond graphs. So let me reshare my screen. Basically, this will be something like this. You see, you have some kind of diagram right there. So you have king, warrior, magician, lover. You start right there. And you expand more or less on those archetypes. And then you have some kind of diagram like this. Dead parents, ancient prophecy told by an old man. Check. Exactly. So technically, every character, you can have some kind of spectrum for that character. But supposedly, you want to expand towards the more mature for all of them. But we have different personalities, and it might be interesting to talk when you apply that to yourself to see which kind of personality you are. Personally, I'm more of the magician, less of the lover, and less of the warrior. A mix between magician and a bit of king, but not that much, but mainly very, very high on the magician one. We will see that. Anyways, let's get back to the channel. Let's talk about the divine child. It's usually the first of the childhood archetype to develop. The divine child is generally a source of enthusiasm, love for life, peace, joy, and hope. It's also in this archetype that you see the spark for the call for adventure. We'll see that this week when we talk about the monomyth, but basically the call for adventure at the beginning of every big story. The divine child is very specific because it is both helpless and all-powerful already. Let me explain. It's helpless because it's a child, and all-powerful already because the character is already displaying some potential and predisposition to do something great. And also is already strong because he's consuming the attention of everyone around that character. This fulfills the need for attention of the child and also inspires others. This archetype is displayed in most, if not all, the classical stories, and it's often referred as the chosen one. Hello, sweetie, how are you doing? So let's have some example. You can give some example of the chosen one already. You can write that in the chat. But I will... Let me just find some pictures, and then we're gonna talk about that. Exactly, Harry Potter. This is the first one in my example. Second one. Give me other examples. Let's go, be wild, be wild. This is a discussion today. So, let's have a look. The first one for me is Harry Potter. A lot of Disney protagonists, of course. To me, this is like the scene telling Harry Potter you are the chosen one when the ones choose him. Something very common to those characters is because there is the call for adventure, there is these eyes. They are surprised. They are discovering stuff. They are very surprised. And during the first... Maybe the first half of the first movie, Harry Potter is always like, oh my god, everything is so cool. He's always in awe in front of everything. Plus, he's a child, he looks a bit vulnerable because he's very skinny, he's in rags, stuff like that. He doesn't know anything yet. And still, he's basically the center of attention of everyone. He's a celebrity in the wizard world because he represents hope, life, good things for the against Voldemort. So you see, there is this aspect that he's vulnerable, he doesn't know anything, and yet he has the potential because he's the chosen one, he's the prodigious child, he's the one that has been chosen to do something great, basically. Second one to me is Simba. The scene when you have the monkey Rafiki showing Simba. Same, he's the divine child. He is blessed by the sun. In the song, it's like the god sun. There is the god ray of sun on him. He's like baptized symbolically with the red powder. He's displayed. And again, he's weak because it's a baby. He's just newly born. But there are all the animals watching him. And he is indeed the center of attention of everyone. So he has a lot of attention, but at the same time, he is inspiring a lot of positive things to everyone. Hamilton from the musical? I don't know Hamilton, I'm sorry. My next example is Luke Skywalker. Again, very young, completely lost. And yes, it's like you are the chosen one. You have been chosen by the Force. At the beginning, he's completely lost. But he's the center of attention because Obi-Wan is looking for him. And he's representing hope. The first movie is called A New Hope, by the way. Yeah, whatever. Anakin is my next example. Again, there's this same face of like, oh my god, I'm surprised and shocked by everything. I have no idea what I'm doing. Same when he's young. It's like, oh my god, everything is so surprising. He's in rags, he's vulnerable. He's innocent. And yet you see Anakin is already displaying some competence. Like crafting robots and stuff like that. You see that there is this vulnerable childish appearance that you can use when you're making a future hero. In terms of characters. My next one in terms of example was... if you want to see religious books, you can pick up Jesus Christ. Or Moses. See? Same. Is the center of attention of everyone in the painting. Even the animals. Moses. Same with Moses in the Prince of Egypt, or even mythology in general. Especially at the beginning when it's the baby and everyone knows that he will accomplish great things. Burning bush. And there is the burning bush. I love that movie. Absolutely love that movie. This scene is incredible. The first song, Deliver Us, is like crying towards Moses to... Basically, everyone is telling him, come back and deliver us. So he has a mission already. He's the chosen one. Like the Jewish. So this is another archetype like that. Again, it's a baby, very vulnerable, very young. But still, he has a lot of potential. Do you have other example? I have other ones. Ori, exactly the same. In the first Ori, I'm not spoiling anything. That's the first 2 minutes. Everyone is looking for Ori. All that mess happening is because Ori was lost. Again, how does he look? Very vulnerable. Childish. Very round with big eyes. Yeah, Charlie. Same, exactly the same. Look at that. This is the same surprised face. It's always the same. Very childish, big open eyes, round face, surprised look. Emiya. I trust you. I don't know the Fate theory, so sorry. But I have another one. Bilbo Baggins. Same. Round face. Kinda young. Surprise face. Kinda innocent. I love that one. Yeah, very surprised. And you see his look at the beginning, he's shocked. And the more it evolves, slowly but surely, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. Yeah, he's super reluctant. But at the same time, it's like, hey, you are the chosen one. You are the thief. I knew a young hobbit who was so curious about everything. You see the call to adventure, and eventually, he goes there. He goes there. That's the mature part. And we will see Bilbo will be immature before. Because he's like reluctant. He's like, no. And when there is the, I'm going to an adventure thing. This scene. That's when he's embracing the divine child archetype. And you see there is enthusiasm. Well, before there was shock and fear. And all along the movie, that's why I loved The Hobbit so much. I know the movie, it's not as good as The Lord of the Rings. The director's cut is a bit better. You watch the 3 Hobbits, you're ready in terms of tone and color for the first Lord of the Rings. It's not that bad. But the evolution of the face of Bilbo is so important. See, at the beginning he's shocked. And he's starting to toughen eventually. Yeah! Yeah, he's getting conscious. I have another one. Arthur. Look at that. That scene is incredible. Such an incredible scene. Look at that face. Look at that, he's so shocked and surprised and shy and vulnerable. He's in rags again. He's so small compared to the sword. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, with the guardrail that there's something divine happening right there. I have another one. This guy. Basically, when you start the game, he's basically born again. And you realize that there's a lot of potential and there's a mission. There's a call to adventure when you see the mountain, basically. Right at the beginning of the game. Then you realize you can fly and stuff like that. So you realize that there's the potential and the call for adventure. And a character, no arm, just fabric, super vulnerable. We just want to... Basically, with the divine child, we want one or two things. We want either to protect him or to encourage the character, or both. Simba, we might want to protect him. Ori, we want to protect him. Ari, want to push him forward. Want to follow him. That's the divine child. Let's talk about the shadows of the divine child. There are 2 of them. Yeah, you want to protect him from his aunt and uncle. Yeah, and that's the beginning, before he embraced the adventure. Because at the beginning, he's in denial. You will see that just right now with the shadow of the divine child. And Harry Potter is a very good example for those. And that's why J.K. Rowling is writing so well in terms of tropes. Because the first archetype... The first shadow archetype of the divine child, which is the turbulent or active one. There's always an active and a passive one. The active one is called the high chair tyrant. Like the divine child, the high chair tyrant needs attention. But unlike the divine child, the high chair tyrant doesn't give anything back. It doesn't inspire, it just demands. And even when his needs are met, the care often doesn't meet his unreasonable expectation. So he throws tantrums, he's hungry, so we give him food. But sometimes after a few bites, he starts pushing your hand away and whine. And then he's splattering food all over his dad. Dog versus cat. I'm thinking about... I'm sorry, but I'm Team Cat. But I'm thinking about Dudley. This is the character that is completely opposed to Harry at the beginning. That's why it's so good. And this guy is throwing fucking tantrums like, oh my god, I only got 37 gifts instead of 38. And the parents are always like, oh my god, my little kitty, my little baby. Some other examples. Syndrome. This guy, at the beginning, he just want to help, which is fine. He's like the divine child. But then, because he's kind of stopped by Mr. Indestructible in his growth, he's always stick with that bitter idea. He starts to think in a very selfish way, like, look at me, I'm gonna be the great one, but he's not giving anything. He's not giving anything. He's just thinking about him. He just wants attention. He wants all the attention without giving anything. And you see, we already have some similarities. In terms of appearance. A bit of a chubby face. Very square, roundish face. Some kind of very angry and malicious look. I have another one. This little guy. Called Farquaad. My god, this picture is perfect. Yeah, same with that guy. You see squared face. Fake ass look. Kinda angry. So Charlie. Are you talking about that? Yeah, same fake ass, kinda angry, bitter little guy. He just wants attention. It's like me, my world is perfect. He doesn't just watch Shrek last week during class. We watched Shrek recently too. There's another one, Alex in Madagascar, in the beginning. At the beginning when he's the center of attention, but he's not bringing anything to the table. Oh, actually, I would be very tempted to use that, but I would get DMCA'd instantly, so I won't. But you have the sound. You have the sound, I guess. Again, you see very squared face, big face. All the time, big face, big face, big face. Angry look. Kinda insecure. Basically, the high-tier tyrant is the embodiment of entitled, arrogant narcissism. He wants attention but doesn't want to lift a finger to get it. He thinks he deserves it just because. Thank you, Twitch! Oh yeah. I think he deserves everything without lifting a finger. Next one, the Weakling Prince. That's the passive archetype, and that's what Harry is at the beginning. The Weakling Prince doesn't throw any tantrums, like the high-tier tyrants, but he makes his own kind of demands. He's got no passion for life, no enthusiasm, and no initiative, and thus must be completely coddled. He plays the victim role superbly. When challenges or problems arise, it's never the Weakling prince's fault, and his parents dutifully swoop in to save him. He's the hypochondriac kid who always finds something to whine about. I want to place Harry Potter at the very beginning in that category, but this is not what it is. He's already the divine child, but as he doesn't understand magic and what's going on, you see at the beginning of the movie, the Dursleys are trying to gaslight him like, hey, you're crazy, you would never go to that school. These letters, those are nothing, no worries. You will never go to that school. They are trying to gaslight him into thinking he's not the divine child. And they're desperately trying to make him weak in this way. A very good example of Weakling prince. If you have example, feel free to tell. Some of them are harder to find, but one of them is a Catman. Look at that. Another one. This little thing. This little one. This one is perfect. Oh, fuck. Sorry. So yeah, Eric Cartman. Morty from Madagascar. Or young George McFly. Look at that face. Even old early George McFly at the beginning is like that. He's like faking a love so fake. Just to avoid stuff. It's kind of pathetic. But yeah, always trying to... Something you will see a lot with those characters is that they always have something in front of them. To appear vulnerable. To get protected. For Catman, it's like the piece of fabric right there. For Morty, it's the tail. There is Lilia from League of Legends. Lilia from League of Legends, she always has the staff in front of her. Because she's young and kind of vulnerable. And innocent. But this is like the divine child in terms of design. So round face, big eyes, childish look. But without the potential. The smart look in the eyes. Or the neutral expression. It's basically a sad kitten. So this is for the divine child. We're already 40 minutes in. Holy crap. Next. Let's talk about the precocious child. It's a precursor to the magician. So, the precocious child. If properly nurtured, the precocious child will eventually develop into the mature archetype of the magician. The precocious child archetype shows itself when a kid is eager to learn about the world around him. Curiosity and wonder springs from this archetype. When your kid asks all those annoying why questions, why is the sky blue? Why is the sun bright? Why those things die? This is the precocious child that is manifesting itself. Ditto for boys who writes for house, get really into art project or science, or work on improving their athletic skills or stuff like that. The precocious child pushes us to develop our talents and give us that spark to explore and investigate, to find out how the world works and what makes people tick. He ponders life's mysteries and is reflective and introspective, although not antisocial, for he loves to share what he has learned with other people in hope that he gets more help. What do we have in terms of example? Very curious character. Those are very curious characters. Let me get the picture. Yeah, deeper. I miss Gravity Falls so much. I'm just gonna grab the pictures because they are funny. They're very funny. If you have other IDs. Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, Frodo. There's so much. There's so much. Jester, of course. Of course. Of course, Jester. There's so much of them. We'll see. I'm gonna grab some. This one is fine. Give me a sec. There's so much of them. So many of them, sorry. There we go. So we have Deeper from Gravity Falls. Big open eyes. Always some kind of mountain clothing for exploration and stuff like that. He's always very curious and excited when he's discovering new stuff with the books and simple objects. Inquisitive. Next. I think Scrat is a very good example of that too. Look at that face. Always curious. Always excited. Always doing his best to hide the nut. I love that movie so much. Carl Fredricksen when he's young and discovering Ellie at the beginning. He's fascinated with scientists and stuff like that. Wally, same, he's very curious. Always discovering new items, having some collection. He has, it's a bug in the software that he's developing some kind of personality in some ways. Same with Archer. Every time when he's learning stuff, coming back with great news, always discovering stuff. Victor in Arcane when he's young. Thinking a lot. Frodo, same. At the beginning, he wants to see the elves. When he's traveling with Sam, at some point they are listening in the night. They got waken up in the night. It's like, hey Sam, have a look, it's the elf. Look at that. Tarzan, when he's discovering all the inventions with the humans, the I Want to Know song. That's exactly that. Ariel from The Little Mermaid, she's curious about what's going on at the surface. Jester, of course. Quasimodo in Disney, but he wants to go down. It's like the opposite of Ariel. You see, again, round face, very childish, big open eyes, and a lot of them, there are some glasses. Wally, Carl, Scrat, big eyes, almost glass-like. Deeper, big eyes, no glasses, but big eyes. This is that very curious. A lot of exploration clothing. Exploration. It's an animal, so whatever. Exploration. Not meant for exploration, but a bit looking like some glasses, some binoculars right there. No glasses, but very curious. No glasses. Exploration clothing. Whatever. Notebook. Again, looking with envy at what's going on at the bottom. That's the kind of stuff that you can see. It's basically a sense of wonder. You want to discover stuff. So you need to implement a sense of wonder in the character. Let's talk about the shadows of the precocious child. Oh, my bad. The precocious child pushes us to develop our talents and give us that spark to explore and investigate to find out how the world works and what makes people tick. We talked about that. It's basically the opposite of cynicism and nihilism in some ways. There's a joy by discovering stuff. Let's talk about the shadows. So shadows, the first one is the know-it-all trickster. As the name implies, this is the archetype from which mischief springs. Hi, Jester. Hi, Jester. It originates from a kid's sense of superiority to everyone else, the superiority that the character feels compelled to prove and show off in various ways. This is not Jester. The know-it-all trickster knows how to charm his way out of trouble. This is Jester, sorry. Not sorry. This is fucking Jester. His adept at deception and manipulation will gain the trust of those around him, only to betray it when they least expect it. Jester is like a good trickster, basically. It's not meant to harm people. That's why she's kinda mature, and you will see she's also the dummy a bit, and you will see why. You will see why. The know-it-all trickster is also the source of smart assery from young bucks. They are generally prone to running their mouth off. This can be a positive thing. The trickster will point out mistakes and say that the king isn't wearing any clothes when others are afraid to. But other characters under the archetype of the know-it-all can be quite smug and enjoy intimidating others with their words. The trickster has a lost touch with his aspirations, and thus does not feel that himself has any degree of worth. And I'm saying him, but it can be her or whatever pronoun you want. It's not for the sake of convenience. Because his sense of superiority is often not based on anything substantive, is envious and insecure, and this is manifested in the need to brag, one-up, and tear down other people and their ideas. He loves to destroy things, but does not build himself. The trickster is focused on maintaining appearance. People who grow into adulthood still under the influence of this immature archetype turn into the $20,000 a year millionaire. They don't make much money, but they sure spend and act like they do. Again, this is an attempt to trick order into thinking the noidal trickster is better than he really is. And most importantly, that he is better than others. How do you pronounce that name? Is it? Yeah, he's Artagan, the trickster god. That's Loki. Yeah, 100%. Shmovit? Is that how you pronounce that? Shamovit? Shamovit. Okay. Here are my examples. Draco Malfoy. Especially when young. Look at that motherfucker. This kid. Martin. Hermione Granger in the first movie. Aladdin. When he's bragging about being Prince Ali. Mushu. I love that character. This is my favorite character in all Disney movies. There's also Yao in Mulan. This guy. It's kind of harder to figure out some kind of mission. Oh yeah, true. But Mushu and Cricket and the horse, it's like the best psychic trio ever. Mushu is like fiery, a Cricket is like the voice of reason, and the horse is like the blasé guy that is always right, that everyone turns to when they need to find a solution. But yeah, Draco at the beginning is bragging just because he's with a rich dad. He's like, hey Potter, I'm gonna teach you how to be a wizard. Avoid this guy, be with me, I know it all. And that's why I love the character, because at the end he's evolving into a character that is very humble. In the sixth one, I love the sixth one. I absolutely love the sixth Harry Potter. It's the one that people hate. I don't know why it's so great. Just because of Malfoy. Because he's starting to get crazy and to realize that he has made a terrible mistake. Nadine is finally becoming kind of humble. These guys just want to show everyone that he knows more than everyone else. Yeah, exactly. That's why a character starting as an immature version is more interesting than a character starting at mature directly, because it shows evolution, and that's the entire part of the process. That's why Malfoy is so great. That's why Harry was gaslit into being the weakling, starting to become the hero at some point. Martin, it has no evolution, it's just an immature running gag. And Hermione, that's the same. At the beginning, she's not very likable at the beginning. She's kind of pretentious because she knows that, indeed, she knows better than pretty much everyone else. But the thing that she needs to learn at the beginning is to stop stomping everyone and one-up everyone all the time. And she, in the first one, when there is Harry and Ron talking, and then she's crying, that's the moment where she kind of stops one-upping people. Second one, she's still a bit confident in her knowledge, like when she's crafting the potion, she gets turned into a cat. And then after that, at the first one, in the third episode, there's only one moment when she's answering a question. That's when Snape is asking about werewolves and stuff like that. And she's answering because no one else is answering. And she's already very sad because she knows what Professor Lupin is. And it's in a very humble way. And that's the evolution of the character. That's why it's so interesting. You see in the eyes, there's always this spark like, me, please look at me. Please look at me. Please, I know better, look at me. You see this face? This face? This face? Like, hey, look at me. And the shit. With this one. Same with Prince Ali. This one's perfect. It's like, hey, look at me. Same with Mushu. This is 100% Varys and Veritas. This is 100% them. Oh my god. And same with that guy. He's always bragging, but he's always the loser until the end. Yeah, I'm unable to unsee that now. Oh my god, we would have need Varys to get the Pact of the Chain with the Pseudo Dragon Familiar and get Veritas to turn into a cricket. Anyways, the second one is the dummy. That's why Jester is a trickster squared, basically. Characters under the influence of the dummy shadow are seemingly uncoordinated, naive, stupid, lacking in childish vigor, and slow on the uptake. But according to Jung and Moore, the dummy's ineptitude is frequently less than honest. The dummy may actually understand more than he lets on, but plays them to deceive those around him and to avoid the risk of striving and failing. In short, the dummy shadow has a secret trickster shadow lurking within him. An archetype within an archetype. That's why Jester is so well done. She always plays like the cute and innocent girl. She's the worst. She's the worst you can imagine. She's setting people on fire. I mean, yeah, that's Jester. I have two other examples. Greg in OG Jiwi. OTG, what is that? Oh yeah, true. I'm thinking about two. Yeah, it's a great show. Very weird. Very great. The twist at the end is... Whew, wow. But I'm thinking about two archetypes. I'm thinking about the Drunken Master. This classical kung fu archetype. Like, he is drunk, we should underestimate that guy. In fact, it's just to trick people. The other one is someone I really like in terms of archetype, Jack Sparrow. Especially at the beginning. He's very nonchalant, stuff like that. For those playing D&D with me, you know another blue tiefling exactly the same way. Jack Sparrow looks like a dummy at the beginning. He's always foolish and stuff like that, but he always knows better than people. Dude Lasker. I love Peter Lasker. I love that guy. Hey. That's for the precocious child. Next, let's talk about the Oedipal child. So, it's easy to read Oedipal child and think Oedipus complex. You know, Freud's idea that kids have a repressed sexual desire for the parent of the opposite sex. Hold on a sec, please. In some part, this is kind of true. More, at least according to Moore. He argued that a kid's yearning for the nurturing, infinitely good, infinitely beautiful mother is at the root of this archetype. But this longing is not for a character's actual mother, but rather for the loving energy of the great mother goddess archetype, basically. That's where it might fork a bit between masculine and feminine. I don't want to enter that debate because I don't want to be seen with my head on a pike. So let's consider that as a universal. I don't want to spark a controversy or whatever. Especially in modern tropes, they don't care about who they are using that on. So we won't go down that rabbit hole if you mind. Don't want any trouble. So, yeah, the Great Mother, the goddess of love, many forms in the myths and legend of many people and culture. In the Christian religion, you have Mary. In the Greek religion, you have Aphrodite. Stuff like that. In the Lord of the Rings, you have Galadriel. So, basically, the way we can see the Oedipal child archetype is to relate it to the Romantic period in Europe. The Romantics, they explore their inner life. They are celebrating the power of imagination and intuition and feeling. They are seeking to feel and experience life deeply and extolling the virtue of passion and free expression to the fullest. They sought to tap into the energy that emanated from nature, love, primal energy, life itself. The Oedipal child archetype also gives a character the desire to forge relationship with others and the affection and warmth to nurture those relationships. Thus, at heart of these archetypes is the desire for connection, a connection with oneself, with the deeper forces of life, with nature, and with other people. In this way, the Oedipal child archetype contains the seed of a character's spirituality. I have some examples. Do you have some examples? Feel free to tell me. My first ID is me as a kid. My first ID is Jack. He's the very sulfurous kid. Making Rose fall in love. And making her discover passion, because before she had a very rigid life. He's the one who likes life. He's a bummer, basically. He's just a bummer. But he's also a fantastic lover, and he's sparking passion into Rose's mind. She definitely intensifies. He's the one making her start to enjoy life, basically. Before that, she was just about to kill herself. Be mindful about that. And basically, every Leonardo DiCaprio role, except maybe Shutter Island, is always the lover archetype. You will see that tomorrow. But that's why Leonardo DiCaprio has been considered and is still considered as a big sex symbol for decades now. Because he's always playing the lover archetype. Even in Gatsby or The Wolf of Wall Street, and you will see that. Even in The Revenant. But yeah, that's the first example I have. The second one I have, again, Ori. Especially at the beginning of the first and second one. Yeah, Ori is playing a lot with Naru. They're enjoying simple life. Stuff like that. That's also the Oedipal child. Plus, the entire story about Ori is about love. And Or is the one bringing love back to everyone in the forest. Even this picture, it's like a reconstructed family. They are not in the same species, from the same species, and still they love beyond. They're loving each other beyond blood, basically. So Or is a very good example. Aladdin. You see that scene? Basically, he's getting Jasmine outside of the palace, and she's discovering life because she's pretty bored. Same as Rose in Titanic. It's exactly the same thing. It's a bored princess discovering life and discovering simpler stuff. Thanks to Aladdin. That's why Aladdin is like the pure lover archetype. But from now, he's still immature, so he's the Oedipal child. Just looking to bond with people. Another one, pretty surprising. Toulouse. This little kid. The Aristocats. He's the wildest of the family. Mary is very like her mom, very traditional, very strict and rigid. Toulouse is everyone's favorite. The last one is what's the name of the black one? What's the name of the black one? It's Toulouse, Mary. I would say Figaro, but Figaro is in the Pinocchio. What's the name of the black one? Berlioz. Yeah. And Berlioz is a bit in between. Yeah, like a composer. But Toulouse is the one bringing a bit of wilderness into the family. It's like the one, we could be a savage cat. I'm playing the savage cat and the street cat. And that's why he's so close to O'Malley. Even in terms of color, because O'Malley is also the lover. It's like the mature archetype for Toulouse. Toulouse is like the Oedipal child. He's curious about life, about what's outside of the house. And O'Malley is like the mature version of that. He has fully mastered life outside of the house. And he's making Duchess and the kids discover that in a safe environment. That's why it's so cool. Basically, the Oedipal child and then the lover is the one bringing the spice. Bringing the secret spice. There is also something very interesting. Remember about Carl Fredricksen? All the characters around Carl are Oedipal child. There's Doug. There's Russell. There's also Ellie. They are all bringing positive stuff to Carl, because when Carl loses his wife, he's getting squared up. He's very squarish now. He's stuck in the past. He doesn't want to socialize with anyone else. He's like this angry old grandpa. And all the characters he will meet will get him to open up a bit progressively. That's first with Russell, then with Doug, and also with and the first one he ever met was Ellie, because Ellie was probably crazy, the good way. At the beginning, when he was a kid in that opening scene, he's like a bit shy. You know that he's a bit afraid of assuming that he wants to do crazy stuff. And Ellie is the one bringing that nature and crazy aspect. And Ellie, she has green eyes. And every scene with Ellie, there is always green everywhere because Ellie, it's like nature. Ellie in Up, she basically symbolizes nature. And that's why he wants to go to Paradise Fall. Because that's like Ellie's place. It's pure nature. But every time you see Ellie, there is always some green. Always. You see, in terms of shape, it's always round, smiley face, very happy, very energetic. You could even have Seed in Ice Age. Deet from Dark Crystals here. I have not seen the series. It's cute. That's also Snow White. For my defense, I don't have Netflix. I'm sorry. So I need to steal Netflix from people. Snow White, it's the same. She's the one bringing a bit of fun into dwarves' lives. So yeah, that's the Oedipal child. Let's have a look at the shadow archetypes. The first one, this is why this one is kind of hard to translate, but bear with me, you can translate that pretty easily. It's like the mama's boy, or the daddy's girl. Instead of tapping into the positive, loving energy and protective energy associated with the parents, the great mother, the great father, that the parents are representing, the mama's boy or daddy's girl, I'm just refer that to mama's boy, but bear with me, fixates on the energy as embodied by his real parents. So if it's the boy, it should be the mother, thinking classical tropes. If it's a girl, it should be the dad. Exactly. So, for example, it might be a boy fixating on the energy as embodied by his own mother instead of the universal mother. And so he's searching that into other women, basically. And you can reverse the sex. He's too connected with his mom. Jung would even argue that these shadow archetypes take control when there is a missing parent or weak parent in the home, thus creating some kind of real Oedipus complex now. The mama's boy shadow manifests itself in various ways. The most obvious is the character who's tied to mama's apron strings, who never wants to offend, hurt, or worry his mother. He lives to please dear old mom, even if that means putting her desires and wishes above his own. Nothing gives him more satisfaction than hearing his mom say, "That's a good boy, that's a good puppy." Draco Malfoy is a very good example. I have another one that is probably the perfect example of that. Many children never break out from under the influence of the parents. They always acquiesce to their parents' wishes and put what moms want ahead of what their family wants, basically, or what they themselves want. They never learn that children are made to leave their parents' home at some point. Generally, those characters, it's pretty ugly. It's pretty infuriating to see those kind of characters. It's pretty hard to handle. Those characters are generally extremely weak and fragile, emotionally dependent, They have an overbearing desire for union with one's mother and a failure to harness loving energy in a healthy way. And it would result in a character looking to fill that void and find that connection in destructive behaviors. Because no one can ever fill that role as the mother archetype. Or the father archetype, as you want. So, a character under the power of the mama's boy or the daddy's girl generally moves from failed relationship to failed relationship and spend countless hours each week feeling hopeless about that void. To me, the best example is this guy, Archer Flake. To me, that's like the perfect example. Draco Malfoy is a good example too. Willy Wonka is a very good example too. And something very funny in that archetype is that there is a lot of the time the clown archetype behind that. It's kind of funny. We need to find other characters. It's kind of hard to figure out some archetypes like that because it's kind of hard to write about them. Another one that I have is George McFly. Especially when he's young. You see he's spying with binoculars in the tree to see naked girls. Yeah, this guy definitely has some Oedipus problem, I guess. Yeah, there is always this kind of clown-like appearance. I would say the Mad Hatter in Alice, maybe. Another one. The vampire. Especially the Dracula from the old movie. Oh, from Coppola. It's like the adult version, but bear with me. It's kind of hard to figure out, but Arthur Fleck is a very good example in my opinion. It's basically an adult person looking like a child. He's an adult person, but he's acting and looking like a child. That's basically the main idea. So if you want to do a character design like that, make an adult character looking like a child. That's the best way in my opinion. If you have any other idea, feel free to tell. But this one is kind of hard to talk about. Next one, the passive one is called the Dreamer. The passive shadow of the Oedipal child. It's the Dreamer. Instead of seeking connection with other people, the Dreamer is aloof. While the positive Oedipal child archetype fuels a kid's spirituality, the Dreamer pushes this desire for otherworldliness to an extreme. He cuts himself off from human relationship because he would rather be alone with his heart. While there's certainly nothing wrong with introspection and solitude, the boy under the influence of the Dreamer shadow too often has his head in the clouds and drifts away from reality. He spends too much time dreaming and not enough time learning how to have relationships with other people, and thus developing the social skills needed to make his dream come true. He's stunted and unconnected. I'm sorry if there are some anime fans right there, but basically any isekai main character is a bit like that. What's the comparison with all the isekai character? Whatever. But like, to me, this is like an example. But I'm sorry if there are some isekai fans. I'm sorry about that. To me, that's very interesting because isekai is like the fantasy about the dreamer. It's trying to comfort the dreamer into this bad behavior in some way. Because isekais, I know it's a genre, but to me that's a gimmick to write. It's like, hey, let's create some isekai story right now. I don't know Japanese names, so Nabaru is like a dynamic walker in the middle of Tokyo. One day gets struck by a car and gets and just before he dies, he gets reincarnated in a fantasy world where he's the savior of the world. Okay, next one. Inuto is a young software engineer in Tokyo. One day, he wakes up transformed as magic apple in the fantasy world. Whatever. But to me, the isekai thing is like just a random dude with a boring life, unfulfilled, transposed into something different, a fantasy world with all the desires that the public might want, which is basically an army of boobs, power without lifting the finger, recognition, and having a purpose. So that's why I don't really like isekai. So for me, the archetypes of like Kirito is very emblematic of that. It's basically someone is trying to run away from reality in some ways. I have other ones. I don't want any spoiler. I hope they won't be. But again, young Victor, before he finds a certain character, but he's a loner. There's also... Oh. There's also this guy who just wants to be alone. You have the music in your head now. So with this guy. Of Carl. Carl is exactly like that. And that's why it's so great that every other character are fulfilled Oedipal child. Because he's basically the dreamer, he's recluse, he's a dysfunctional one, and he's getting exposed to mature ones and functional ones. See what I mean? He's unable to connect anymore now that he lost his wife. And other people will help him learn how to reconnect to other people and to socialize again. That's why this story is so great. Other character. Oh my god. Not this one, please. Dark. It's so dark. That's exactly the archetype of the dreamer. He's absorbed by his vow, by his vengeance, by his past. You don't understand. I suffered. I can't be with other people anymore. Life is shit. You don't understand my suffering, Naruto. I must avenge my parents and reclaim my honor. by killing my brother. I can't forget. You don't understand. No, I don't know. Melissa is pretty social in some ways. Other characters. And that's why it's so good in Naruto, because every character that Naruto is changing are fucking loners. And that's so great. Naruto is so fucking great. I'm not sorry. Naruto is so well written if you remove all the filler episodes. Same with Gaara. Gaara is the first one that Naruto is able to change. There's a big loner and he's teaching him how to socialize, how to make friends, how to open up, basically. No, you're not. That's fine. I was playing Chula, I was playing an absolute social monster. Same with Sai. He's always pissing off Naruto. Because Naruto doesn't understand why they want to seclude themselves from everyone. Naruto is like the absolute Oedipal child. Because he wants connection, that's what he is missing. But instead of becoming dysfunctional, he's just becoming a hero, thanks to that. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, that's the example. People that are completely disconnected. And now, let's talk about the hero. The hero, that's the most common figure found in myth. Joseph Campbell detailed the use of the hero archetype in his seminal work, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, aka the monomyth. We're going to talk about that this week. In that book, Campbell describes an archetype journey that all mythological heroes must take. It's basically the Bob is a nobody, living a nobody's life in the middle of nowhere, and out of the sudden is revealed to be the chosen one from a prophecy or whatever, and will have to undergo a very long and dangerous journey away from his home to save the world and to get back with peace and become someone better. There's a twist, however, because while we are accustomed to thinking of becoming a hero as the end of all existence, Moore argues, and I also argue, that the hero's archetype is still an immature energy that must be further developed into the mature warrior archetype. Unlike the mature warrior who fights and battles for causes bigger than himself, the immature hero fights and battles mainly for himself. That's where Naruto is going to space. The hero definitely has ideals, but those ideas are used for a self-serving purpose to create an identity that facilitates the process of becoming his own person. The hero's only goal is to win his personal independence, break free from influence of his parents, and enter fully into adulthood. Moreover, while the mature warrior knows his limitation, the hero doesn't have that sort of self-awareness, which often results in physical and emotional ruin. That's why it's so important and so interesting. The hero is usually the last of the childhood archetypes to develop, and it's the peak of psychological development in kids. It is the last development stage before a child transitions into adulthood. According to Moore, this transformation from child to adult can only occur through the death of the hero. Through initiation and rites of passage, the kid is symbolically killed only to be reborn as a fully grown adult. Give me some examples. There are a metric ton of them. Huh? The first one. Harry Potter with the Resurrection Stone. There's literally death and rebirth. Literally. But even when he's young, when Hagrid is telling him you are a wizard, it's basically killing the old Harry, the usual Harry, to let the wizard Harry appear. It's like a rebirth. That's why when you see this avenue, you see that scene with the bricks and Hagrid is tapping on the bricks. I don't know the translation for that alley in English. What's the name? Angle Diagon Alley. Okay. There's a scene with the bricks. Yeah, that's Neo from Raging. Hello, Great Shoe. Neo is a good example. We're gonna take him just after that. But this scene with the bricks opening up, it's like, to me, it's a bit like, bear with me, it's very metaphorical, but it's like either an eclosion of an egg, or when you grow through the natural way to get a baby to be out, basically. And to me, this is like a symbolic representation of Harry being born again as a wizard. Welcome, Great Shoe. And thanks for the example, because Neo is on my list. This scene, if you take the blue pill, you're free to believe whatever you want. Take the red pill, go down the rabbit hole, and you see how far it goes. This is basically the moment when he takes the red pill. This is basically the moment when Neo kills the blue pill version of himself. And he's reborn. Because you see, then there's that scene where you need to retrieve the body. So he's literally reborn. Escaping from that liquid and stuff like that. That's literally a rebirth. Again, he killed his previous self to be reborn as a true Neo. Same with that scene. You see that scene in The Lion King when Simba is growing? That's basically the transition from a child to a hero. And then once he's fully adult, he's not a warrior yet, because he's immature. He wants to stay with Timon and Pumbaa, live the Hakuna Matata life and stuff like that. So he's still immature, he's still adult, but at least he's a hero. He's the immature archetype of the hero. We'll see that tomorrow. At least he's a hero. Immature passive one, a hero still. That's the transition. And that's why the Lion King is a myth. It works so well. And of course, Naruto. Especially when he's young. At the beginning, he just wants to get recognized. He's just fighting for himself. And as he matures, especially in the Shippuden part, at the beginning, he's very awkward. He's very abrasive in the way he's speaking. And then in Shippuden, he's way more calibrated. He's way more social and aware of his environment. And that's where he's starting to fight for something greater. In the entire first part of Naruto, even when he's fighting Sasuke and stuff like that, it's still egotistical. It's very selfish. But then in Shippuden, when there is the ninja war and stuff like that, that's where he's starting to fight for people, for other things than himself. At the beginning, he just wants to be the Hokage of the village. That's very selfish. But then at some point, it doesn't fight for that anymore. He still has that as a goal, but now he's fighting to save people he loves. And him becoming an Hokage is basically the subproduct of him starting to fight for something greater than him. Because that's where people can start trusting him. Same with Bilbo. That's it. That's when he's starting to become a hero. Not that much. He's still on the immature side because he doesn't know to do anything. He's still afraid. He wants to run away, but at least there is a spark. And then when he's saving Thorin for the first time at the end of the first movie, that's when he's really embracing the hero archetype. Before he was just a weakling. He was just a coward, and we're gonna see that. That scene with Thorin is like so great. It's like, you are a fool. I've never been that wrong in my life. They're like, oh my god, that's so beautiful. Okay. Let's talk about... Oh, same with the Luke Skywalker. There is the Luke, just a simple farmer on Tatooine. And then there's the Luke, you're a Jedi Luke. Have been chosen by Force. Same with Anakin. There's the Anakin crafting spaceships. And then the Anakin, hey, you're a Jedi, come with me. I want to rewatch those movies. Let's get back to the shadow archetypes of the hero. When basically you get stuck right at the beginning. First of all, on the active side, there is the Grandmaster Bully. The Grandstander Bully, sorry. The young child under the influence of the Grandstander Bully demands respect from others and will unleash his wrath both physically and verbally if he doesn't get it. He has let the hero's sense of invulnerability mushroom into an arrogant and inflated sense of self. Thus the boy, under the bully shadow, takes a necessary and foolish risk, and his hubris oftentimes leads to his own destruction. The shadow very often follows a kid into adulthood. Basically, do you know, like a grown-up adult who suffers from intense road rage or blows off at the waitress race who gets his order wrong? Stuff like that. That's the childhood bully shadow at work. Adults who are still haunted by this shadow believes that they are superior to all others, and when this sense of inflating sense of self is threatened, when the world doesn't cater to his needs, he loses his temper and lashes out, basically. But underneath the Grandstander Bully is posturing. There's a posturing and false bravado. There lies an insecure coward, basically. And he must fight to keep this fact hidden from everyone else. This insecurity makes the Grandstander Bully sensitive to any insinuation that he isn't good enough, competent enough, man enough, girl enough, whatever. He also lacks the confidence to incorporate any loving energy into his life. This is the person who scoffs at meditation and introspection and say it's useless. It's like the big dum-dum, hey, what are you doing with your magic? That's stupid. I'm stabbing people with my sword. I'm using a club. One example I have, give me a sec. It's like, nope. Biff from Back to the Future. This is the perfect example. Who else? Robin Goyle. All of them, actually. Who else? Do you have any ideas? Ralph at the beginning. It's just the bad guy. Shrek. Remember the first Shrek? The beginning is like, I just want to be alone in my marsh. I don't want anyone in my life. And then when he's discovering Fiona, who is the perfect loving archetype, at least for Shrek, she's again opening Shrek a bit, making him accept that he can basically have some kind of affection in his life. And also, in order to protect Fiona, to protect himself, he has to go from an insecure guy that is kind of reluctant to go to the adventure to a full hero when he's back. He's basically becoming a full hero at the moment that Fiona is leaving. And he's like, okay, that's my job is done. And then he's like, with the donkey, he's like, hey, you still love her? Yeah. So you need to oppose that wedding. That's when he's becoming a hero, because he's fighting for something greater now. Before it was just for his marsh. Now it's to save Fiona, basically. He's finally starting to work on something greater than himself. So yeah, the brute archetype, you see, very big, very bulky, very muscular, like your typical bully in every American movie. Big stupid brute, that's the archetype. You don't really have a bully that is pretty slender. It's always very big, very ogre-like. And finally, you have the coward. The passive polar shadow of the hero archetype is the coward, lacking the hero's courage. I think character from Witch Dragon is also fit this situation. I don't know what is Witch Dragon. I don't know about Witch Dragon, but I trust you. This is looking great. Wow. The coward. The passive polar shadow of the hero archetype is the coward, lacking the hero's courage. The kid under the shadow avoids confrontation, whether the conflict is physical or mental or moral. The coward cannot stand up for himself. He's a conformist, a boy who will always go along with the crowd and does what others tell him to do. Even when fighting back is the right decision, he will walk away and rationalize his choice as the better thing to do. But the kid possessed by the coward cannot even convince himself of his own excuses, and he despises himself for his cowardice. He knows he is disrespected, and as people continue to walk over him, he gets angrier and angrier until he reaches a breakpoint and lashes out in full grandstander bully fashion, or evolves toward a hero. It would have been far better for this boy to handle conflicts in a healthier way. To me, the best example is, again, Bilbo Baggins. But at the beginning, everyone is telling me, hey, man, you are useless, you're burden to us, let's abandon you, come back to your home, grow back your plants. At some point, it's like, yeah, that's true, I'm useless. And then he is pissed, and he lashes out to save Thorin. So with George McFly, during the entire movie, Marty is telling him, hey, you're a fucking loser, please man up, become an adult, stand up for yourself, do something. And at the moment that Beef is attacking Marty's mother when she's young, that's the breaking point. And he lashes those on Beef with that big fist. That's why he becomes the hero. I would also say Powder in Arcane when she's young. But I don't want to spoil Arcane. Any other question, commentary, stuff like that? This is just for the child part. Tomorrow it will be about the adult part. It's going to be pretty cool. But already you can see some archetypes and you can think in terms of shapes for your characters. So yeah, the TLDR, Divine Child, it's like Simba, Harry Potter. It's always sense of wonder and hope. So some very positive. You see it's a child, but it has some potential both either physical or intellectually. Something like that. The High Chair Tyrant is like Dudley. It's like Eric Cartman. Very angry, very... this kid always throwing tantrums. The Weakling Prince is like Eric Cartman. Or you can have Puss in Boots with the big eyes. The big cat eyes. Exactly that. You have Morty in Madagascar. The small weasel. You have young George McFly. Character of Wish Dragon. David Child Dream. Wants to return friendship. His friend from childhood. So yeah, kind of like childhood story. Then he wants to adult love relationship and has rivalry, which is also helpful maker. Okay, nice. Precocious child. It's like that nerdy child. Nerdy scientist. That early wizard. Very gifted kid. Know-it-all trickster. It's like the arrogant kid that you want to slap. Like Joffrey in the Game of Thrones. Draco Malfoy. Martin Prince. Hermione Granger in the first movie. Aladdin. Prince Ali. Mushu. Yao. Always bragging and making themselves bigger than they really are. The dummy. It's like the drunken master. It's like Jester. It's Jack Sparrow. It's very smart in some way. I love the dummy character. I love that. The Oedipal child. It's like any child that is absolutely unconditionally loving, like Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, Ori, Aladdin, Toulouse in The Aristocat, Eddie in Up, Russell, Doug in Up again. The Mama's Boy. Arthur Fleck in Joker, George McFly. I have an example of Daddy's Girl. What's the name? Oh, that character. It's that horrible piece of garbage that is Nelly Olsen. No, Zazu is fine. Zazu is immature adult archetype. We're gonna talk about that. But yeah, Nelly Olsen, that's an example of the daddy's girl. Every daddy's girl is in American series like High School Musical and stuff like that. Very entitled, arrogant, bitter all the time, thinking that everyone else is inferior. The dreamer, it's basically the loner. Someone very reclusive. So Sasuke, Gaara, Sai, Carl Fredricksen, Shrek, young Victor in Arcane. Examples like that. The hero, it's basically every character in my mythology. Odysseus, Simba, Naruto, Harry Potter, Bilbo Baggins. Grunt stand-up bully, so it's very wide, very bulky, big head, big arms, big shoulder, small brain generally. So it's Beef, Crab and Gold, Ralph, Shrek, every tank in the in games, the Barbarians, stuff like that, Conan the Barbarian. And the coward, it's like Bilbo Baggins, George McFly, guys like that. Now, let's have a game. Let's have a game. Let's have a small game with all the silhouettes. Let's have a game. This is for you, chat. Let me find a picture for that. All right. Actually, you know what? For the game to be pertinent, you need to have the second part first. But basically the game will be, we're gonna watch some characters from games, some tropes, some fantasy stuff. And you, the chat, will have to tell which archetype it is. To see if you have understood that. I was about to do that right now, but you need the second part because most of the characters are adults. So stay tuned for tomorrow. We're doing the adult part. It's going to be pretty cool. And then we're having the game. If you have any question, feel free to write. In the meantime, usual speech for people watching YouTube. Feel free to join on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Feel free to join us on Twitch. To interact with us in real time, ask questions, get further informations, have a better interaction. Please join the Discord down below. We are building crazy good community. Very motivated people. We have some accountability. Some people building portfolios, some feedbacks, some paint overs. Very active community. This is very great. Follow me on Twitch. Social media are coming pretty soon. By the end of the week, social media are coming. There will be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. With some stories every day. Oh yeah. Follow me on Twitch. If you want to subscribe on Twitch, feel free to do that. You'll access some wonderful emotes. If you want to support me financially, you can. There are some links down below. If you want to book a consultation, there are some links down below too. Or you can send me a message on Discord if you want something customized. Aside from the financial aspect, if you want to support my work, feel free to share that with anyone you think might benefit from it. Anyone looking for their first job, looking for some well-being, or some very motivated community. I know it's a bit tough. It's a bit of tough love that we have in the community, but you can make a bet right now. Just give us 1 year. We'll have a bunch of crazy professionals out of that Discord. If it's not 1 year, it will be 2 for the youngest. People still in school. They are growing up rapidly. If you want to be part of that, feel free to join us. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. It was almost a 2-hour stream. Oh my god, that's long. Tomorrow is going to be even better with the adult archetypes. And then we're going to have some games. Take care, guys, and see you tomorrow.